Right off the bat, you knew something was afoot. You knew that something wasn't right when you saw the title for this Young Turks video. The title being, Buses Forced to Run Disgusting Anti-Semitic Ads. Now let's acknowledge the fact that they misspelled the word Semitic, and this has been mentioned to them hundreds of times in the comments, and they still haven't changed the thing, which is bizarre, stupid, and obnoxious. But it gets worse than that. It's not just their simple misspelling that is the problem here. You would think that this story would be about a bus running disgusting anti-Jewish ads, because that's what we commonly know anti-Semitic to mean. It means anti-Jewish. That is the common usage. That's what everybody refers to it as. But this can't be right. The Young Turks have never made a video in defense of Jews, have never been on the side of the Jews or Israel in any situation. Why? Because you don't punch down. Why? Because the Jews, apparently, they're not victims enough. They aren't an oppressed minority enough for the Young Turks. The progressive mantra is to never punch down, always punch up. So apparently, getting almost eradicated from the earth 70 years ago, coming off the heels of centuries of anti-Semitism, being pushed out of and killed in every place they've tried to go in this world, coming to Israel, starting their own country, getting attacked by its neighbors, who are all genocidal psychopaths, multiple times, being constantly bombarded by terror attacks and vicious assaults from the outside and from within. No, they're still the bad guys. They're the powerful ones. We have to pile on and criticize the Jews. What's priceless about this video and the Young Turks in general is that they are, in fact, disgustingly anti-Semitic. That's the beauty of it. So what the insidious little ploy strategy they're trying to do here is, the rightful phrasing of this would have been, buses forced to run Islamophobic ads. As you can see here from the first sentence of the video.
New York City buses will be required to display Islamophobic ads despite an earlier hold against that.
What? But they tried to get clever with it. What they're trying to do during their little morning meeting, they were like, you know what'd be cool? You know how like everybody's against anti-Semitism? Like you just say, don't be anti-Semitic, and there's no challenging that. Most people say, oh yeah, anti-Semitism is a bad thing. Because it's viewed generally as this unfair, very sort of racist, hateful stance to take, to be anti-Semitic. The Nazis were anti-Semitic. Nobody wants to be associated with the Nazis, right? But, oh, look at this. In the fine print here, the Jews are not the only Semitic people. The Arabs of this region can also be considered Semitic. So why don't we, instead of referring to these ads as Islamophobic, which is going to like trigger people and make them think that we're defending Muslims again, let's just refer to the ads as anti-Semitic, which we know is a term that they're against, and then we'll do a little switcheroo. Ah, it's the Palestinians, it's the Muslims that the ads are against. The only problem is, guys, there's a few problems. The only problem is, when people are anti-Semitic, there's no reason for it. It's a purely racially hateful thing to be. It is a thousands of year old trend that is, in fact, a disgusting, hideous phenomenon. Nobody ever backs it up with the ideas of Judaism. It's not like they're like, oh, well, I hate the Jews because the Jews like to kill people who leave Judaism. Or the Jews are against free speech. The Jews want to impose Old Testament law on the world, and there's a billion of them that want this, and I find this idea to be horrific. No, this is not happening. People are anti-Semitic because they hate Jews. They were taught to hate Jews. This has been a running trend for centuries, and that's the end of the story. The problem is when you're anti-Muslim, or what you so idiotically phrase as Islamophobia, which is, as we all know, a made-up garbage word that has no meaning. There is no irrational fear of Islam. It's total horseshit. When somebody is anti-Muslim, they have reasons for it. It's not just, well, I'm against Muslims because they're Muslim, because my parents taught me to be that way. No. This is when they will try to say, oh, it's the race, you're against Middle Eastern people. No, I'm against all Muslims. I'm against white Muslims, brown Muslims, yellow Muslims, black Muslims, you name it. If John Boehner became a Muslim, I'd be against orange Muslims. It doesn't matter. But I'm not against them for no reason. I'm not against them in a vacuum. I'm against them for a long list of reasons, which I'm more than happy to talk to you about. And my dislike of them for these reasons is nowhere near disgusting. It's honorable. It's utterly justified. It's commendable. It's requisite. Why don't you might as well have said buses forced to run pro-human ads. Buses forced to run pro-gay, pro-women, pro-freedom ads. Buses forced to run pro-civilizational ads. Ads that condemned 8th century death cults. This disgraceful word game that the Young Turks play is see-through. It hasn't fooled anybody. It's a joke.
The ads are funded by noted Islamophobe Pamela Geller and her American Freedom Defense Initiative. That sounds like a wholesome organization. Let's bring up this first picture. It's going to show you the ad in question. Originally blocked from being put on those MTA buses, now you will see killing Jews is worship that draws us close to Allah, according to Hamas MTV, which is, I think, probably the worst MTV spinoff. That's his jihad. What's yours? Well, we know what hers is. It's putting up ads like this, because we've done videos on previous ads by Pamela Geller. Islamic Jew hatred. It's in the Quran. 2/3 of all U.S. aid goes to Islamic countries. Not sure that that's true, maybe. Stop racism, end all aid to Islamic countries. Because if you take away the money, they will no longer be racist. That makes sense to me.
And they have a picture of Hitler there.
There's a picture of Hitler.
It was huge
Muslim.
in the Quran. Yeah.
Exactly. Big Muslim Hitler.
First of all, this story should begin and end with free speech. Free speech is free. There's no buts, so sorry, it's free speech. That's the end of the story. The reason the picture of Hitler was there, let me explain for you sarcastic idiots, is because Hitler hated Jews. Just like Muslims hate Jews. Are you trying to deny that fact? Or are you trying to... I mean, what a worthless waste of our time to point out that Hitler wasn't Muslim. By the way, Hitler and the Palestinians have a lot in common. They had meetings together. Here's a little info on that connection.
Here is a critical point that is generally overlooked. The anti-Semitism of the Nazis had a great appeal already in the mid-1930s to many Arab nationalists and Islamic fundamentalists.
From the mid-30s, from 1936 on, Hitler and his propaganda sections made a great effort to win over the Arab peoples of the Middle East.
We see that the undisputed leader of the Palestinian Arab national movement of the 1920s, 1930s and 40s, Hajj Amin al-Husseini, the Mufti of Jerusalem, was a fervent admirer of Adolf Hitler.
The Mufti was one of the founders of the radical Islamic movement, and Hitler saw at once that this man not only could serve his purpose, but wanted to serve his purpose.
There is a very important meeting between Hitler and the Mufti of Jerusalem on the 28th of November 1941, of which we have a full protocol. And what Hitler explains is that this is first and foremost a war of extermination against Jewry. And he tells him to lock this secret in his heart. He is revealing it to the Mufti. It's extraordinary he should choose the leader of the Palestinian Arab National Movement for this revelation, which is in an official German document.
It seemed strange to us that a Mufti who was not a pure Aryan was being received by Hitler. But they said, no, we have the same goal, which is the extermination of the Jews. Hitler's gone and dead. The German people are not the Nazis of 1944, but the Muslims have never wavered in their goal, which really is, if they possibly could, to kill all of the Jews. I'm convinced of that.
If radical Islamic fundamentalists had their way, we would have another Holocaust. There's absolutely no doubt about that. If Al-Qaeda could produce it, they would.
The two groups, the Nazis and the Muslims, have a ton in common. An undying hatred of Jews. A desire to wipe Jews off the planet. This is a absolutely valid comparison to make.
In any war between the civilized man and the savage, support the civilized man. Support Israel. Defeat jihad. So those last two are the older ones. Now we have the earlier one. That's his jihad, what's yours? Which seems like a weird... It seems like they support it to some extent. Like, he has this as his mission. You too should have a jihad that you go out into the world with.
That is really dumb, John. Really, really dumb. First of all, nobody's in favor of jihad. Nobody's suggesting a jihad. We are against jihad. Okay, fine. No, you know what? My jihad is to end all jihad. How about that? Have we reached a level of sufficient retardation? We are against their jihad.
It's easy for Pamela Geller, who is doing this to get the ratings, I guess, perhaps to raise money for her group, to whip everyone up into a rage. And it seems like the sort of thing that you wouldn't expect to see on buses, but a judge did rule that it hasn't yet been proven that having ads like that on the side of a bus will actually generate enough violence to offset her freedom of speech being taken away if she can't run the ads. Which, look, freedom of speech is important, and I guess if you pay for the ads, you should be allowed to run them.
Yeah, freedom of speech is cool, but...
Well, the judge also said, this is really, it was pointed out, but the Judge Koeltl, John Koeltl, Koeltl, I don't know how to pronounce it, but he wrote, the defendants have not presented any objective evidence that the Killing Jews advertisement would be likely to incite imminent violence.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Okay, so if that doesn't,
If you have to call it the Killing Jews ad,
right,
that should be a problem.
Right there.
Okay, you guys, let me just pause here. I mean, a lot of the times this shit flies by you so fast that you cannot really stop and appreciate any single piece of feces that is flying past your head. So let me pause here and just explain to you what just happened. They're making jokes right now. They're making light of the fact that you had to refer to the ad as a Killing Jews ad. Like, oh God, if you have to refer to your ad as the Killing Jews ad, you know that you're probably a hateful fuck. The person that made the ad is not in favor of killing Jews. They are exactly the opposite of that. So your attempt to trivialize the ad by referring to it as the Killing Jews ad, that is what Muslims are doing. That is what the ad is against. It's not in favor. It's not referred to as the Killing Jews ad because it supports killing Jews. It's called that because it's shedding light on the fact that Muslims around the world want to kill Jews. That is the uncomfortable fact that you have, not only have you ignored it, you've tried to paint it in the exact opposite way. He said, if you have to call it the Killing Jews ad, that should be a problem. What do you mean exactly? Hold on. Elaborate on what you just said. How is that a problem? It's a problem because killing Jews is bad? Is that what you're saying? Because that's what we're saying. That's what the bus ad is saying. Are you saying it's bad because they aren't killing Jews? Is that your stance, John? Are you really suggesting that Muslims are not anti-Semitic? That cannot be your stance. I refuse to believe. So basically you have no fucking grounds to have said that. Yet again, another damning moment during a Young Turk video where they just completely lose track of all semblance of reason. And it gets so much worse here. That's what's shocking. It gets so much worse.
Like the judges incited violence.
Yeah, exactly. Now, so the problem that I have here, at least, and that our producer J.R. Jackson has, is that she's implying there that this is such a Muslim thing to be filled with this hatred, to want to kill people, to want to discriminate against people. That is something that they do. That's their jihad. And so J.R.'s put together a couple of clips of Christians talking about perhaps their jihad. So let's run these next 3 short little videos back to back.
What? Stop. Let me put this in slow motion now. Wait a minute. Let's be clear what just happened. You did not deny the fact that there is insane levels of anti-Semitism all over the Muslim world. You didn't, right? Let's just acknowledge that. So we have addressed the fact that this is an inexcusable facet to the Islamic faith, their hatred of Jews. We will not stand for it. We will defend the Jews' right to be alive. And now what you've just done is totally changed the conversation and have brought up another religion. Christians. You've chosen Christians. I don't know why you've chosen Christians. You could have brought up the Hindus or the Buddhists, but you chose Christians. Well, actually, I do know, because this fits into your progressive agenda. You can attack white people who are mostly Christian. You can attack America, which is mostly Christian. This is an apologetic smokescreen. Now, you have to understand, once again, 2 wrongs do not make a right. Once again, this attempted equivalence you're about to make is scandalously wrong. It's not even in the same ballpark. So understand, even if there was another group of people, let's say there was a religion that had 1.6 billion people on the planet, they're called the wackadoos, okay? The wackadoo religion. And this wackadoo religion is totally anti-Jew. just Jew hating. They teach their kids to hate Jews. They want to kill all the Jews. Not all the wackadoos, don't get me wrong. I don't want to paint all wackadoos with one brush, but a lot of them hate Jews and kill Jews. For you to now bring up the wackadoos still is not a defense of Islam. Even if a comparison to another religion had an equal amount of anti-Jew hatred. It still doesn't justify this. It still is in no way a defense, and it's deplorable that you would think it is. The problem with the Christians are that they don't hate Jews. In fact, they love Jews. I've spoken about this before. The Christians love the Jews. For better or for worse, you're going to get guys like Mitt Romney giving speeches in Israel because, oh yeah, Israel, that's like, they talk about that in the Bible, and yeah, Jesus was a Jew, and all stupid reasons. But they still love the Jews. And please, let's save the time machine argument for later, folks. Let's save our trip to ancient Christians and their anti-Semitism for later. Today's Christians do not have problems with Jews, and in fact, it is the Muslim world that carries the torch of anti-Jew hatred.
I want the law to discriminate against all alternative lifestyles, against gays and unions. I want to promote and to put in a privileged position that institution of marriage between a man and a woman.
Okay, let's stop right there. So Bill Donahue, okay, you've cherry-picked a guy, a total idiot asshole. Okay, now do you want to play a video editing game here? Is that what you want? For every Bill Donahue, do you want me to post up 1,000 videos of Muslims saying anti-Jew shit or Muslims killing Jews? Is that how you want to play this game? And I love the fact that we're talking about genocidal freaks in the Middle East who want all Jews dead, and he points to a Catholic American who's against gays being married. He's against gays being married. That is the attempted equivalence. So this guy's against gays getting married, and these people want to eradicate an entire group of people. Equal.
I would recommend that you stop playing it safe. You know, the Bible says if you can't keep up with men, how will you run with horses? You must prepare for martyrdom.
And again, totally off topic. What is this clip about? You take this goofy housewife who nobody's in favor of. I mean, what did you think that just accomplished? Okay, what, she's patriarchal? Okay, well, we disagree with her. And so do the vast number of Christians. I mean, what? Oh, I know what it was. She said the word martyrdom. So you think she's recommending people blow themselves up. When in actuality, she was using the connotation of martyrdom as we must be willing to suffer in the name of our fight against gays. Politically. This is a woman who is politically active. This is nothing to do with violence or military anything. And you have tried to conflate these two things in a pathetic, in a weak, limp, ridiculous attempt to equate what Muslims want to do to Jews and what this woman, quote, wants to do to gays who want to marry. So sad.
The holy war is here. And unfortunately, it seems the President of the United States will be the last one to acknowledge it.
And again, another clip taken out of context. Bill O'Reilly was not declaring a holy war, he was acknowledging a holy war. That they have started. ISIS, Al-Qaeda, Boko Haram, Al-Shabaab, Al-Nusra, Hamas, Hezbollah, all of them have started the war. Do you know how many people it takes to start a war? One. The war has begun. Pearl Harbor. We did not have to acknowledge the declaration of war. We were in a war after Pearl Harbor, regardless of what we said or did after it, just to make it official. They have declared a holy war, and we are in it. You are trying to portray the fraction that you took from that Bill O'Reilly segment as him wanting a holy war, or him declaring a holy war, when that is precisely not what he was doing. He was criticizing Obama for not having the courage to acknowledge that a holy war has already begun and we're in the midst of it. When people fly planes into your building screaming out the name of an invisible God, guess what? You're in a holy war.
I will be after him, actually. He will not be the last one.
Can I just make a quick point about what Bill O'Reilly just did there? So he's saying there's a holy war, and the whole meme is that President Obama is black, so he's a Muslim.
Oh my God, Jimmy. Jimmy, I'm not feeling good today, Jimmy. I feel a little bit sick, under the weather. Please do not make me waste energy. Do not get me upset, Jimmy, again. What possible reason do you have to bring up race right now? What fucking possible reason is there? What are you talking about? The meme is that Obama's black, but he's a Muslim? Jesus Christ, Jimmy, where did you pull that out of your ass? Now, this brings me back to the larger point. So every time you're listening to the Young Turks, all you gotta do is remember the 5 talking points. There are 5, guys. It's the progressive agenda, as compiled by me, yours truly. Do you want to go over them? Here, let's do it. Let's take a little gander at the 5 points. Number 1, white people are racist. So no matter what you're talking about, you could be talking about bus ads, a conflict between Jews and Muslims, freedom of speech, Islamophobia, anything, doesn't matter. It's always about white people are racist, folks. It always is. That's always just an inch away, hidden under the surface. Bring it up, like Jimmy Dore just did. A fucking nonsensical, idiotic statement that took the conversation from let's defend the Muslims and bring up a new topic of Christians doing bad shit to hide from the fact that Muslims are to blame for millions of human rights violations going on around the world. And you took it to let me bash my head against an oak tree in disgust of the recognition of the fact that Jimmy Dore is a human. That this guy is being paid to say this right now. White people are racist. Okay, good. We've established that. Number 2, fuck America. Blame America and its military for every problem on earth. Mention Iraq. Okay, once you have laid waste to the white people of this world and outed them as being racists during whatever conversation you happen to be in, also, please criticize America, and specifically America's military, its foreign policy, and whatever you do. Mention Iraq, for God's sakes. Please. I don't care if you're debating what the best flavor of ice cream is. Iraq deserves a mention. Number 3, and we've seen this already, this is the whole point of this entire video, defend the Muslims. Defend the Muslims and create a false equivalence with Christianity. And muddy the waters. Let's make it confusing. Oh, they just showed us 3 Christians, and those 3 Christians said some things that were bad. Therefore, Muslims are off the hook. Muslims are off the hook. It makes no logical sense. It's especially irritating if the person you're talking to is an atheist, who has no affiliation with Christianity, is not in favor of the individual whack jobs you just cherry-picked, but who is also cognizant of the fact that this is not representative of what is happening in the world, and not even close. Number 4, fuck the cops. Fuck those cops, those fucking pigs. Fuck the police, you know what I'm saying? Not even fuck the police. Fuck the police. And number 5, which I happen to agree with, wholeheartedly, fuck conservatives and Republicans. Now, yeah, you got a good point on that, but let's keep that to a discussion when we're talking about Republicans. Shall we? Now let's watch and see if Jimmy hits on some of these points during his insane babbling.
Right, and his father was from Africa, so he's a Muslim, right? Even though there's lots of Christians in Africa.
Yes.
You're black, you're from Africa, you're a Muslim.
Yes.
So...
Was that humorous? Was that an attempted comedy? Like, somebody needs to, indicate when Jimmy's trying to be a comedian. I'm not aware of it. Yeah, nobody's saying that, Jimmy. So I don't know what sort of red herring bullshit straw man this is, but totally pointless what you just said. Obama's a Christian. Okay, next. Yeah, what? So race? Why are we talking about race? Why are we talking about race?
This idea that somehow the Muslims are worse than Christians. That's what this is all about.
This idea that somehow Muslims are worse than Christians. Jimmy, that's an idea that you and your scumbag progressive friend there just made up. You just took a story about somebody exercising their free speech and acknowledging that Muslims are Jew haters, and you've turned it into a bullshit comparison between Muslims and Christians. That's your doing. And it's completely ridiculous if you want to look at the stats and the numbers, the violence committed around the world. I mean, I've gone over this ad nauseum. And speaking of nauseum, you make me nauseous looking at this shit over and over again. Like, Jimmy, I told you this last time, dude.
Bill O'Reilly is saying this is a holy war. We just found out.
Bill O'Reilly is saying they have declared a holy war. Bill O'Reilly is not declaring the holy war. He's acknowledging that they have declared the holy war.
I've known, but we've just had it confirmed through news reports, that the people who are starting ISIS or the founders of IRIS, the heads of ISIS, they're just ex-Baathists, right? And they're using
Formerly
religion.
secular.
So they were with Saddam Hussein. We blew Saddam Hussein out of there. And so all those guys are still around. They're Sunnis. They want to take Iraq back over.
Yeah.
So what they're doing now is they're using religion as a cover to do this. They're not religious.
What the fuck? They're Sunnis, they're secular, IRIS? What, dude, by the way, he's mentioning Iraq now. We're now talking about Iraq and fuck America. So let's just notice what has just happened. In the blink of an eye, we've just shifted from white people are all racists to fuck America, blame America and its military. Yes, that's what he's just saying. He is talking about Iraq right now, and he's defending the Muslims. This is why it's so crazy and fun to watch these people, because they don't just try to hit one of the talking points. They try to hit 3 of them in one sentence. I'm sorry, ISIS is not secular. I'm sorry, the people that make up ISIS are religious, fanatic, lunatic Muslims. Ask them. They gladly will tell you that their lives are totally centered around Islam and Muhammad and Allah. This is not even up for debate. I mean, dude, there's nothing worse than the Crusades. There's nothing worse than dropping nuclear bombs. Oh my God. They are not religious. Okay. They're using this as a cover. Oh, it's an amazing cover. This is right now just sad. It's just honestly sad to see a guy, a comedian, an unfunny comedian, be this bizarrely wrong. I mean, how wrong can you fucking be? These people are not religious is something that his mouth said. It wasn't a joke. This is not a sketch. He just said that ISIS is not religious. What is the sane thing for me to do when listening to somebody say that? All I can do is underline who just said that. I trust in you to be able to decipher how obnoxiously stupid that is. Let's listen to him say that again.
Saddam wasn't religious. They're just using that to try to attract younger people to join them, but they don't give a shit. It's not a religious war. These Christians want a religious war, but the Baathists couldn't give a shit. They just want Iraq back.
First of all, Saddam was religious. Saddam was a Muslim. Saddam was a Sunni Muslim who killed Shiite Muslims. It sounds pretty religious to me. Maybe not the most fanatical guy in the history of Islam, and that's not really you don't get too many brownie points for that. Yeah, Saddam Hussein, well, he was the Sam Harris of Iraq. Give me a break.
Give a shit. They just want Iraq back.
Yeah.
So again,
It also informs why the Christians are so protective of Israel. I mean, it's rooted in that, is this whole idea of religious war.
Yes.
You know, and that because they think that's where Christ is going to come back, and that's where they're going to be able to make their stand. That's why that informs so much of the fundamentalist idea of protecting Israel and making that such a big part of their political platform. And so that's ridiculous.
Yeah, there's a lot of Christians with some stupid ass ideas about the end of the world and about a holy war that will come. Yeah. And you know who's in favor of that? Not me. That sounds like a wrong thing. Kind of like a wrong thing that we were talking about a few minutes ago. The wrong thing of hating Jews and killing Jews. Remember that topic that we sort of just left and just wandered? We sort of just meandered over to, oh, Christians did something bad over here. Fascinating.
I just want to say for the record, I cannot keep up with men or horses. I have no idea what that woman was talking about.
And by the way, if you have horses, why are you running next to them? Get on the horse. That's kind of what horses are for.
Who can read a horse? Who can catch up with a horse?
I don't know.
You bet on a horse.
Exactly.
Stupid drivel.
Also one more, just on the Bill O'Reilly, this is a holy war and you're not grown up. So if you're grown up enough, you're not tough enough to admit that this is a holy war.
Yeah.
George Bush said that when they asked him, hey, did you consult your father before you went into Iraq? He said, I consulted my heavenly father.
Yes.
And then he called it a crusade.
He called it a crusade.
And once again, we see the pivot and the shift. He starts by saying, Bill O'Reilly's talking about the fact that the Muslims have declared a holy war. That Muslims are killing in the name of their God. This is the major talking point. This is the reason people have a problem with these fanatics, with these religious psychopaths. And what does he do? He ignores that, doesn't condemn that, doesn't deny that. He talks about George Bush, which is, back to our talking points, fuck America, and also create a false equivalence with the Christians, and then talking about how George Bush consulted his heavenly father, which is, that is a cocaine-using, binge-drinking party guy from Texas talking about his heavenly father. He's a little bit less religious than the people we're talking about in the Muslim world. And when he mentioned crusade, that was his speechwriter who used the word crusade as a verb. He wasn't talking about let's have another crusade. He wasn't saying that. So you've literally taken that out of context. That transgression was immediately seen as inflammatory and removed and was never spoken of again, because it's not a crusade. America is a secular nation acting for secular reasons. We did not engage in a holy war. We did not go into battle for Yahweh. That is a demented thing for you to suggest. A terrible attempt at yet another false equivalence.
Yeah.
So,
Boykin,
anything. So, again, there's this whole contingent of what these, like, Sam Harris followers. Like, Sam Harris gets atheism right 100%. And then almost everything else he gets wrong.
Yeah.
And it's weird when
He
a
was
guy...
great in Jurassic Park.
He was great.
Yeah.
And this whole thing somehow that the Muslim religion and people who follow Islam are somehow crazier and worse and more sadistic.
Jimmy, I mean, dude, for the record, as if it needs to be said, yes, they are crazier and worse and more sadistic and more violent. They are. That's the plain truth to it. We could do 25 hours of continuous explanation of why that's the case. The short version is go to the religionofpeace.com, go to barenakedislam.com, or read any newspaper ever. That's your answer. That's the reason. That is the evidence for the fact that they are indeed way worse.
I just saw a guy get shot in America by another American on camera, and when the guy who was unarmed got shot and he said, "I can't breathe," another American said, "Fuck your breath."
Yes.
So I don't know if that's as bad as what ISIS does to people when they kill them, but I think it's pretty bad.
Jimmy, let me, let's talk about that. You want to? Yeah, Jimmy, if you'd like to wipe that idiotic, smug face off your rat-like visage, I would like to explain to you why it's worse what ISIS does. ISIS kills people. First of all, again, pointing out two wrongs doesn't make a right. Pointing out a second wrong does not absolve the first wrong, and creating a false equivalence between two things that are nowhere near equivalent is an abortion of thought. Now, in ISIS's situation, they kill people intentionally. They behead them, they burn them, they crucify them, they kill children on purpose. In the situation you were talking about, there was an accidental shooting where a guy died. And it wasn't just a guy, it was a criminal who was running away from police. A multiple-time convict, meth dealer, who was in the process of selling an illegal firearm to an undercover agent. So a weapons-dealing, drug-dealing criminal running from the cops who gets accidentally killed by a senior citizen who was trying to tase him but accidentally shot him, who immediately said, "I'm sorry." That is not like ISIS, you fucking idiot. Do you want me to show you video of what ISIS does? Do you want me to then walk you through with a laser pointer and show you the differences here? And then fuck your breath? Yeah, fuck that guy's breath. The guy selling guns and meth to the people of our community who's running from the cops for the nth time, he got subdued, he then got medical treatment, he would have then been fed and housed on our dime, he would have been given a fair trial. This doesn't even come into the same universe as what ISIS does. You sad, ugly goblin of a man. First of all, let's also acknowledge that in this analogy, he is saying fuck the cops. He is pointed to police brutality. So he's hit on point number 4, guys. Fuck the cops. And there were white cops killing a black criminal. So it's white people are racist. What? Beautiful. And he's saying that in the context of trying to muddy the waters here by pointing to non-Muslims doing something bad. Those cops probably were Christians, so he's defended the Muslims. And they were Americans. And they were probably Republicans. I mean, that is a full-on progressive statement.
Pretty bad.
So this whole idea that somehow Christians are less murderous, they're less...
Somehow this idea that, we brought up in an attempt to defend Muslims and to stop criticizing Muslims. You know that idea that we brought up? Yeah, this idea that Christians are any less murderous. The fact that 99.8% of terror deaths are caused by Muslims this year, the fact that Muslims are the only people doing this. Yeah, I mean, where do they get this stuff? Where is this?
We had the Catholic Church raping kids all over the world for how long? Who knows how long? Anyway.
Oh, right. And Muslims don't rape. Muslims have never raped. Yet again, Jimmy, nobody's in favor of Catholic priests raping children. Nobody. Do you want to do a segment on that? Do you want to do a video on that? Is it necessary? Is that what we're even talking about? How the fuck is this relevant? By the way, go look at the rape stats in the Muslim world. Or not even the Muslim world. Look at the rape stats in Western Europe and how many are committed by Muslims. Yeah, that'll be an interesting read for you. The Muslims are raping up a storm around the world. This might be a time for you to insert a little nugget about the sex slavery going on in Nigeria and elsewhere in ISIS. Jesus Christ.
This whole idea of we want to find a worse religion and then hate that religion.
Yeah.
They're all fundamentalism inside religion is bad. By the way, again, they're using religion, all right? So the religion just a cover for ISIS, and I knew it right when ISIS started. I'll pat myself in the back for that.
I knew it right when ISIS started. Right when it started. Oh, I knew it right when ISIS started. What a weasel this guy is. Is this guy a man? Can you imagine like playing basketball with this guy or having a drink with him? What is this guy? What the fuck is this like putsy, rejected, non-funny comedian, schmuck, progressive shit stain? What am I looking at here? Who is this person? Why is he talking? Dude, the Muslims are Muslim, you shit.
They're all fundamentalism inside religion is bad. By the way,
here's the last-ditch effort. It's fundamentalism is the problem, folks. You know those Buddhists who are really super Buddhist? You know those like Buddhist monks who are like who go up onto mountains and just meditate all day and don't say a friggin' word, and like they are bald heads and shit? I mean, those are fundamentalists, and they're a major problem, folks. You know, I mean, their meditation, they're really hardcore into meditation, but like too much. It's almost like they're fundamentalist about it. Fucking idiots. What a fucking loser you are, Jimmy. Jimmy, you're a loser. You're just a loser. Your thoughts are not legitimate. There's no merit to anything that you're saying.
Yeah, and so Pam Geller would like, in many of the ways that Jimmy was talking about, for you to see them as easy to discriminate against, somewhat subhuman, easy to hate, easy to use violence against. That's why she has her, that's his jihad advertisement campaign, because she wants you to think that this is something that's only true of Muslims. So
wait a minute, John. Let me guess. Let me take a wild guess here. Hold on. I'm just going to throw this out there. I don't know if it's true or not, but when she posted ads talking about what Muslims honestly want to do in the world and what they literally consider to be their jihads, so a real problem that really exists in the real world, let me guess, are you about to refute that? Are you about to deny that those things are true? Are you going to tell me that jihad isn't a real thing? Are you going to defend Muslims? Or are you going to bring up Christians? Are you going to create yet another false equivalence?
we had a few of from the videos that you saw. We had some graphics that you can pluck out with screenshots and spread around, not to generate hate against them, but for people to understand that there are crazies representing every single religion. So
not to generate hate against Christians or exercise your freedom of speech, which is exactly what you're doing right here, which is exactly what you just criticized. With the whole video is about you criticizing what you are doing right now, and to a larger audience.
So why don't we bring up these pictures? If people want to pull them, they can. Matt McLaughlin, in the fear of God, any person who willingly touches another person of the same gender for purposes of sexual gratification be put to death by bullets to the head or by any other convenient method. So the only way he's going to do it is if it's convenient, to be fair. He's not going to go out of his way to kill gay people, but if it...
Okay, and now, I mean, you cannot get more obvious than this. So now they've picked this one total psycho Christian loser from California, who everybody considers to be a joke, who has proposed this absurd law, and they've quoted him as if to suggest that there are an equal number of Christians who hold this idea in particular, that gays should be killed, as there are Muslims. Do you know how astronomically false that is? There are hundreds of millions of Muslims who want this to be the law. There are Muslim countries where this is the law. That's a slight difference between a ridiculous proposed bill that will not get a single vote and will be laughed out of California, and current modern-day countries in the Muslim world who actually do this. Gays are being killed by Muslims right now. You don't see that difference? Now, let's talk for a moment about the graphic designer at the Young Turks and his prolonged effort to give me a cardiac arrest. Why the fuck are you putting a dash? Look at how he has formed this. The people of California wisely command. Why has that been split? Why? Somebody tell me. I'm going into a panic attack. Why did you do it again at the bottom where you say by bullets to the head or by any other convenient method? Why did you not add a paragraph after other? What the hell? What the hell is your problem? This is only symbolic of just how stupid these people are. This is how they're going to graphically represent. It's only fitting that the graphic design of such an idiotic false equivalence would be that atrocious.
It's convenient. Yeah. They'll kill him. And then we have Bill Donahue, part of what you heard in that video.
Okay, yeah, Bill Donahue doesn't want gays to be married. Oh my God. Can you imagine? Let me put a question out to all the gay people in Saudi Arabia and Pakistan and Iran. Would you rather live in your country where you will be instantly killed if you are gay? Or would you like to live in America where you have all the rights in the world, where you can get married, in fact, and you might have to coexist with a guy who doesn't want you to be married? Which would you prefer? Do you find these two things to be equal? And again, let's look at the graphic. Let's look at the text layout. I want the Lord to discriminate against all alternative lifestyles. Oh my. I'm in favor of killing the graphic designer. Does that make me racist? I don't know. What race is he? Let's kill him though. Whatever race the graphic designer is, I'm now against that race.
We've got the Sandy Rios. He's looking for discrimination. You must prepare for martyrdom.
And again, they triple down on the idea that she's talking about the same martyrdom that Muslims are talking about, when it's so readily obvious that she is not. I did an entire video about this, if you'd care to check it out. Their continued hammering home of this attempted bullshit false equivalence makes my skin crawl.
And then finally we have the Holy War is Here from Bill O'Reilly. So that's their jihad.
Oh, there's one. We don't have a graphic for it, but I just talked about this last week on my show. Was they were saying what Rand Paul needed to do to.
I always forget what's the name of that show.
The Jimmy Dore Show.
Oh,
his bona fides. As a conservative, Rand Paul wasn't strong.
Oh.
He wasn't muscular enough with his foreign policy, meaning he wasn't willing to bomb people at the behest of the military-industrial complex. And this guy was on Fox and Friends, and he said that Rand Paul has to prove that he's willing to nuke a Muslim country. Nuke.
Yeah.
Nuke. That's just about as gross as it can get as warfare.
It's gross. It's racist. What? What are you talking about, man? Look at this. Rand Paul has come up. Rand Paul. So now we're on number 5. Fuck Republicans, fuck conservatives. And now we go back to fuck America because, oh yeah, nukes. We're the only ones that use nukes. There's nothing worse. There's nothing worse than that. Forget the fact that Hamas's flag is a mushroom cloud, and they have expressed the desire to wipe out the entire Jewish people. Forget the fact that if these groups had nukes, they would easily use them. If Al-Qaeda or the Taliban or any of the terrorist Muslim groups we see had nukes, they just happen to be too backward and primitive to have the technology to do that. And the countries that do have the technology to do that are a huge problem to starting World War III, to ending life on the planet. They are a massive problem because they are ruled by known psychopathic religious theocrats. That is completely dangerous.
Rand Paul has to prove that he will kill hundreds of thousands of people.
Yes, men, women,
mostly
babies,
innocent
indiscriminately
civilians.
Kill people.
Right.
Well, if they're Muslim, then he's a good guy. He's a good Christian. So this kind of rhetoric is everywhere. Again, trying to pretend that people who follow Islam are more violent than Christians. It's just not true.
It just is true, Jimmy. It just is true. They are responsible for more violence than any other group of people, and by a large margin. By a huge margin. So it is just true. Nobody's pretending.
Nuke anybody.
It's just ignorant, and you're just trying. That's confirmation bias. So and that's all they're doing. You think Muslims are more violent than Christians, and then you look for it, and then you find it. If you want to we do the opposite here all the time.
And here we have what could be the most priceless moment of the whole stupid video. He just accidentally admits that he and the Young Turks have confirmation bias. He just said, if you Christians, all you want to do is you think that Muslims are more violent. So you go around and look for situations where Muslims are violent. We do the same thing in reverse. In other words, we go out and look for situations where Christians are violent or Christians do bad things because we have a pre-existing bias that we think all people are equally violent. And our agenda is to throw Christians under the bus. You're not doing it in reverse though, Jimmy. You're just doing it. You are just enacting a confirmation bias. And you just admitted it like a fucking moron on live TV.
And by the way, we also criticize all religions here.
And he subconsciously catches himself. He just heard himself. He's trying to backpedal because he just heard the fact that he said that they specifically go out looking to tar and feather Christians and find examples of Christians doing bad things so as to alleviate the scorn that the civilized world has towards Muslims. And so now he says, oh no, but we also criticize all religions. Oh really? Oh really? Show me an example of that. Where in this video, which has been all about religion, the entire premise of the video is talking about the violence and anti-Semitism of Muslims, you have not once criticized Islam in this video, not once have you acknowledged the insane amount of violence that Muslims commit around the world, not once.
Yeah.
So that's a big straw man then. Oh, why don't you? People always do that to me
Why
too.
don't you criticize Islam?
Yeah, well, you can't. It's hard to criticize Islam, Judaism, and Christianity all in the same segment. But sometimes we manage to do it.
We do try.
Yeah.
We do try.
It's
Oh, you were trying like a champ in this one. Oh wow, a video misleadingly titled "Bus ads are disgusting and anti-Semitic" or anti-Semtic, which you guys misspell it as, and you turned that video into a unmitigated bashing of Christianity, a false equivalence that is so false that you should be penalized for this. You should go to jail. This is demented speech. It's not, you have the freedom to make this demented speech, but you should know it's demented and wrong and immoral and scandalous. It's awful what you're trying to do here. You had every opportunity in the world to speak honestly or objectively about what Muslims are doing. Not once did you do that.
Try.
it's not that hard to do it, actually.
Okay, I'm going to do it right now.
No, you're not. No, you're actually not. You're not going to bring up the Armenian genocide. You're not going to bring out the Islamic conquests of the ancient world. You're not going to bring up the problem of rape throughout the Muslim world. You're not going to bring up the misogyny or the anti-gay homophobia that runs rampant. No, you're not. You're not going to bring up the terror attacks. No. None of that. None of that. The video's over. It's over. You shot your load. You've hit all the talking points. Every progressive point was hit. And you think that now we're supposed to leave this and go, you know what? Yeah, Christians and Muslims exactly the same. The same ideas, the same doctrines, the same degree of violence.
The Quakers always get off scot-free here, though,
Yeah,
as well they should.
Well, they make good oatmeal.
And we're left with a dud of a joke. The Quakers make good oatmeal. Quaker oats. That's the humor. That's what he is bringing to the table. So after that inane rant that he just went on, that set back the concept of this show having an intellectual discourse about 1,000 years, he ends it with a moment of levity. The Quakers make good oatmeal. Enjoy that, you guys. Just enjoy that. Let the hysterical laughter that you're now experiencing brighten your day. Thank you, Jimmy Dore. Listen to what this bearded tool has to say at the end. He makes a joke, like off-the-cuff joke, about how the Quakers, oh yeah, they get off scot-free here. You know, we don't mention the Quakers. And they go, yeah, but as they should. So the joke being, the reason that was trying to be funny was because the Quakers don't deserve to be thrown under the bus, because the Quakers are not violent. So they don't deserve criticism. So he is acknowledging that this portion of Christianity should not be mentioned. He is so dangerously close to the truth about Christianity, which it should not be mentioned at all in this context. There is no comparison to be made. And that applies to Baptists, Lutherans, Protestants, Catholics, you name it. They do not belong in this conversation. And yet they get dragged into this. And it is so profoundly weak that a video that starts with the rightful criticism of Muslims and their hatred of Jews and the violence they commit towards Jews ends up with a discussion about Catholic priests raping kids. If you cannot see what they are trying to do, the moves, the bullshit moves they are trying to make, you need to rewind this video, watch it again, and soak it up. This is weakness, guys. This is pure apologetic weakness.